episode of the Beyond Elevated show. Sitting next to one of the best that ever do it, Percy Lee Jones, Diddy, P. Diddy, Percy Lee Jones, PLA, Percy Lee Jones on fire, Percy Lee Jones entrepreneur, Percy Lee Jones coach, Percy Lee Jones. What up, Percy?
What's going on, guys? I'm grateful to be back with you guys and have another phenomenal episode.
Yeah, man, we're gonna have some fun today, and I know we're gonna have fun because you brought another friend with you all the way from Arlington, Texas, Mr. Ryan Lillis. Ryan, what up?
How's it going, fellas? I'm glad to see the sun for the first time in about 10 days here. Was starting to think I lived in Seattle, but it looks about back to normal outside. So glad to be here with you, fellas.
Yeah, well, the little kids like it. Ryan, Percy just talked to my daughter for about 5 minutes, and he was like, "How was school?" She was like, "I haven't been at school all week." It's like, yeah, that's what happens when you get 1 inch of snow down here in Dallas. They shut down everything. And sitting next to Mr. Ryan Lillis, all the way from Columbus, Ohio. That's Buckeye Nation, but don't get confused. He loves the Chicago Bears, is Mr. Corey Wilson. Corey, what up?
Yeah, man. What's up, fellas, man? It's good to be back. Let's get it started, man. It's a lot of things we need to discuss and hit today.
Yes, we do. And since it's 1 week before the Super Bowl, well, it's actually 1 week before the Eagles go to the Super Bowl. I just wanted to discuss some things that are happening in the offseason for football. Obviously, we're going to bring you so much football coverage throughout the year here at Beyond Elevated. But also, in addition to that, we're going to talk a little bit about a lot of other sports, keying in on basketball. So Beyond Elevated is not just a one-trick pony. We'll talk about a lot, and we're probably going to have some more guests here on frequently. Just have some more guests on, right? We want to bring on some more people. We want to talk to some different people, but let's just start with some off-season news. And number one is we want to talk about Sean Payton accepting the job to go to the Denver Broncos. Very, very big hire for Denver. It seems like they were talking to a lot of people that included John Hardball from Michigan. Percy, I want to ask you a question here. And do you think this is a good hire for Denver? Do you think that they found their guy?
I do think it's a good hire for Denver. Sean retired, had his little hiatus for a second, but overall, I believe he's a great coach, man, and I think he's actually the guy that Denver needs to turn that leaf because they've been doing too well lately. So as well as I like new talent. I like people to be promoted and to be put on, but it's not a bad hire at all. It's definitely a good hire.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Percy. I think this is a great hire, especially for where their quarterback is at in his career. I think it's a good matchup. You know, Sean's been around the block. He's won a Super Bowl. He's proven himself as a pretty dadgum good play caller in this league over a long period of time. I think it's a good hire, especially with where Russell Wilson is at in his career. I think it's a lot better than bringing in a first time head coach or elevating a coordinator to a head coach. I think Russell Wilson is a guy that can look at Sean Payton and there's similar respect there with Super Bowls and just knowledge of the game. I think it's exactly what Russell needs at this point and what this offense needs. It was very stale last year. So bringing in an offensive-minded guy who can call the plays as well and knows how to score points and his coach caliber quarterbacks like Drew Brees, I like it.
I'm sort of straddling the fence, man. I do think it was sort of the only way that they could have went with the terrible year that they've had. And definitely you couldn't bring a college coach in or maybe even a newer head coach in to teach. You can't say teach Russell Wilson, but, implement your new offense with Russell Wilson. But on the other side, let's not forget, when Drew Brees retired, even Drew Brees' last year, it looked like Sean Payton was losing his mojo a little bit. And he was a very, very average coach without Drew Brees. So if that is true and Russell Wilson is if that's the worst contract in NFL history, as we were saying, you guys were saying a few weeks ago, Robert, It could be.
I stand by that. I stand by that statement.
Okay, so if that holds true, and if Sierra has made Russell Wilson lose his mojo, as she would probably make any of us lose our mojo, I probably wouldn't go to work the same. So what's Sean Payton going to do? What if Russell Wilson is not performing in the beginning? You know, Sean Payton is quick to let you know how he feels and where you stand. So he will get a new guy in there if Russell Wilson isn't doing his job, and that may shake things up, you know, and make things even a little rockier. So I want to see what happens. So
absolutely. And for those of you who are tuning in live on our YouTube feed, please feel free to like the page. I'm going to bring something up here on the screen. And I always use over the cap for salary cap analysis. It's always good. If you see the Broncos here, they're around the middle of the pack, and they have a salary cap space of about $8 million, which isn't a lot. You can see the teams that are in the black are teams that have effective salary cap space, and the teams that are red are effectively not having salary cap. As we know, that the cap base went up to about $224,800,000 this year. And when you dive deeper into the Broncos and you look deeper into the analysis, the Broncos are spending a ton, and this is just 2023. We're looking at 2023. They're spending a ton here on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is 22 million is the cap number for him this year. Their second player is Cortland Sutton. Third player is Justin Simmons at 18 million. And you could just go down the list, but they're not a young team. They're one of the oldest teams in the league. Number one. Number two. They have, a pretty spread out cap of 121 on offense and 103 on defense, but only having that 9 million cap space with Russell Wilson on the book for, the next 4 years is going to hurt them. Corey, do you feel like since Peyton is coming in here that this isn't a 1 year, obviously they haven't released the contract for him yet, but that's going to be ridiculous. And do you think that they're giving him the option on maybe getting rid of Russell Wilson a little bit early if it doesn't work out with him, and if Sean Payton doesn't like the way that it's going to work out?
They have to. With the way Russell Wilson's year was last year, if he repeats that same year or even similar to that, I don't think it's the only thing you can do is get rid of him. You're not going to sit him on there another year to collect all that money on the books when you can draft a new quarterback and start over.
Yeah, but they've already given up a couple draft picks for Russell Wilson. The Seahawks are picking fifth this year. That's what I'm going to talk about after this. But number two is that they also, because Peyton was still under contract, they also had to give New Orleans I think a first round pick and a second round pick. I'll get exactly what it was, but it was a big haul to get Sean Payton to coach for them. Ryan, how do you feel about that after they basically, they're going to be low on draft picks now for the next 3 years. But if there's anybody that can do it, they are getting somebody who's proven to do it, right?
Yeah, man. That's kind of where I was going to take this was that contract is horrible because not just you drain some draft picks. This one obviously is very important. Seattle's going to be picking fifth, which could have been Denver's draft pick. So that's detrimental to them. That's a decision that they made. And this is kind of how this is all played out is not fared well for Denver. That's for sure. That's very obvious. But Sean Payton's got experience. He's got guys, that front office is going to have to make some trades, in my opinion. I think there's going to have to be some shifting going on. And if they do sign free agents, like you said, there's not a lot of room there to make any big splash signings. So these picks that they have that are a little bit later on, they're going to have to absolutely nail those if they want to even, take away something from this draft or get some kind of return on investment for the deal that they made. That's there's not a lot of that there. So they need something to go right with this deal because so far It's been a disaster. It's been a total S show.
You they don't really have to wait a full year, honestly. If he sees Russell Wilson is not,
Right.
what he's all cracked up to be, I'm sure it's a couple of teams in the NFL who will give away a second or a third or something for Russell Wilson, and they can recoup a couple of those picks back. But as long as he pulls that trigger quick and doesn't wait for him to pull a ish show the whole year. So if he sees, in the beginning of the year, if this is Russell is not the guy that he once was in Seattle's heyday, he could package Russell Wilson and maybe get a couple of picks back.
True.
I disagree. I just disagree, Corey. I think if Russell Wilson doesn't play up to speed, any kind of anything that's manageable or anywhere close to what he played last year, they're not going to give him any picks. I mean, I'm looking here and I'm seeing in 2024, he's got dead cap space of, 2023, it's 107. 2024, it's 85 dead money. And 2026, it is 49 million in dead money. Now, I think when you get in 2026, that's when you can start talking about it. But in the next 2 years, I'm not seeing a team saying, okay, no problem, no matter how you're playing in the next 2 years, let's just say next year, we're going to take a contract with 3 years and 85 million on it for Russell Wilson. That's a hurt piece. I'm not banking 3 years and 85 million on my salary cap with Russell Wilson. But I agree. Maybe you could be right. Maybe somebody that's desperate and has a ton of cap space, like Carolina or somebody else. But let's actually stay on that here for a second, and let's move to another team that just made I think a fantastic hire, and that's the Houston Texans hiring DeMeco Ryans, and DeMeco saying that this was his dream job and everything is great. Percy, the Houston Texans are just in shambles. I see you shaking your head. No. Do you think that they made the right hire, though? I mean, did they start or are you just so pissed on what they did to Lovey and other people? Like you're done.
I'm going to say this, man. 0-2 already. And what I mean is 0-2 on the last two head coaches they had, which were African-American. Everything you hear from the players that are there in the back office, they say nothing positive. I haven't heard not one player yet say anything positive what was going on down there in Houston. So am I happy for Mr. Ryans? Absolutely. He's did a phenomenal job this year. The last couple of years, I won't take nothing from him at all. But what I'd like to see him in a better predicament, because coming in here, I'm not sure how much help he's going to get. Yes, he has number 2 pick overall, but I mean, I don't really see too many positive things. If he comes in there and wins 4, 5, 6 games, I think it's a win. But I think it's going to come with him getting help from the back office that everyone in the past has been speaking about. So I'm happy for Mr. Ryans. I would have rather it not been another African-American there, but I'm going to put that in the past and hope that, wish him the best. But nothing positive has been coming out of Houston in a very, very long since Arian Foster played there.
Bill O'Brien, who's in New England now, which we can talk about in a little bit. Ryan, what do you think here?
I like the hire just because I'm a defensive minded coach or a guy. I like my coach to focus on the defensive side of the ball rather than doing play calling. That's just the way I like my football coach. But that's, I think that definitely is going to tell us where they're going to go. I think on their draft pick at number 2, I think they are going to go probably defense since they hired DeMeco. I think they either need to do or quarterback. I mean,
okay, all right.
That's really it. The problem with this is kind of piggyback off of what Percy was saying is that in Houston, there's a lot more than just a quarterback that's needed to make this roster function. I'm going to tell you that. You can get a great quarterback, but I don't see them making. They're going to have to, if they want to even get 500, they're going to have to revamp their entire roster, start from scratch. I think they're still a few years away from that. But I think DeMeco is a good coach. I think he's the way he coaches defense is the way defense needs to be coached in the NFL. He's very physical. He believes in running to the football, and he likes to actually, which came to their detriment this past week. He does like to get out and spread out with the offense, go mano y mano. He likes it. So I like the way he calls his defense, but will he be great as a head coach? I don't know. That's a whole nother question. But I like the hire. I like the way Houston's going about their offseason so far. They got their guy. He played there. He was an All-American at Alabama. He's done everything you can in football besides win a Super Bowl. So I think he's a good hire for a young mind in the NFL.
Okay. Ryan, do you think that that's enough with hiring African-American coach? I'm joking, Ryan. We're not going to do that to Ryan. Percy, I know you have one more thing, though.
I got a quick thing to say. I do hope that they give him more than a 1-year deal.
Oh, yeah.
I hope that's 1 year. I hope they don't call it quits like they did the last two guys.
It doesn't matter what his record is at the end of the year.
Right.
They will not. They don't have the ball to do it.
That's how bad a shape they're in.
Corey, we're going to come to you, and then we're going to come right back to you, Corey, because we're going to talk about the draft.
Okay, so if he goes out there and he's 1 for 16, what do you mean it can't be a 1-year deal? Yes, it can.
The Houston Texans won't subject themselves to the media scrutiny that they will do, since they just fired two African American coaches in a row after 1 year. They won't do it again.
It's all about optics, and if it's ugly and if it looks ugly, I don't think they'll be concerned about that. I think I don't want to say. Some people are better at, we've been talking about this all year. Some defensive coordinators are defensive coordinators and not head coaches, or offensive coordinators are offensive coordinators and not head coaches. And I don't want to throw him under the bus, before we've seen a sample size. But I will say, we love you, Lovie Smith.
Oh gosh, here we go.
He coached.
Thank you for winning that last game.
All right, let's transition.
Hold on. He's in a good position right now with that number 2 pick. Now, what I think he's going to do, I don't think he should get one of these young, shiny quarterbacks. I think he'll bring a veteran in. He'll trade back with the number 2 picks. Like you said, they need more on that roster and get picks, and get the type of players that he wants to implement in his system. So I do think it's perfect for him as far as an opportunistic time for him to, land that number 2 pick so he can really build the team the way he wants to. And he seems like the type of guy who's not going to pick one of these young quarterbacks. I could see him trading back and getting one of these defensive players, but I just think he's going to trade back and get as many picks as he can.
And that's what I want to talk about. The question was, is D'Amico Ryan a good hire? We want to move on to the next topic, which is the draft. Percy, I know you had one more thing. I'm going to let you hit it, and then we're going to go to the draft.
Pretty much going off of what Corey just said, I actually like Mills as a quarterback. I like
turn his mic off.
No, I don't know I can't think of the running back right now they got.
Who's he throwing the ball to?
Brandon Cooks. Okay, so let's take a pause here for a minute, right? And let's just stop here for a second, because I want to make sure that we're staying on topic. So before we start talking about who he's going to draft, let's talk about the draft. And I don't want to go into teams 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We'll probably do like a 5 to 6 part series until we're done the first 30 teams. Okay. So we're going to start with teams 1 through 5. Now, just to make sure that we're on the same page, we will talk about trades. We will talk about a lot of things. And we will talk about, what teams should do in this situation and what we think that they should do. So let's just start at number 1. In round 1, number 1, and let's start with the Chicago Bears. Obviously, we know that the Chicago Bears have the most salary cap that's available. They have $90 million. Currently, they're on picking number 1. And we're going to go over to Corey. Corey, what do you think that the Chicago Bears do with the first pick of the draft?
They're going to trade back. The only thing I'm wondering, I think they should probably trade back twice. and get more picks. They're going to trade back. I think they're going to trade with Indianapolis. Atlanta is a dark horse as well because they desperately need a quarterback. And I think Atlanta, if they give up 3 first-round picks and make it really ridiculous, they'll jump up. The thing is this, if they trade back once, they're going to be I think they should go defensive line with the Carter guy from Georgia, as opposed to Will Anderson, because I would get Carter because I think he's we have many pass rushers in this draft. So if they trade back once, I'll go ahead and they'll trade back to that 4th spot with the Indianapolis Colts and probably get Carter. But I'd even trade back twice and get the offensive lineman from Northwestern with the first pick, because I think that's the first thing that they need to shore up is that offensive line to protect Justin Fields. And that's it, because Justin Fields will be coming, in a couple years, it's going to be time to see if we want to pick up that 5th-year option. And there's no way you can determine if you want to do that without giving him protection and seeing what this guy can do. You want him to take a Jalen Hurts leap.
So you're talking about, when you're saying the 5th-year option, you're talking about Justin Fields, right?
Yes, Justin Fields. And if you come out and he has no protection again and he's running around like a chicken with his head cut off, it's no way he can develop proper quarterback mechanics as far as stepping up in the pocket. Some of the things I think he needs to work on this year if you don't have confidence in that line.
Absolutely. So Corey, let's just talk about the top 5 picks. So you're saying that, and I get it, you think that they should trade back twice, but just for the sake of our podcast, you're saying that they're going to trade back once, and then they would pick up the lineman, the defensive lineman, the defensive tackle from Georgia, and help me out with his names, guys. Is it Carter? Yes, it's Jalen Carter from Georgia. So, I don't disagree with that analysis. I definitely think that they should trade back. Percy, how are you feeling here with Chicago?
Well, Chicago needs to protect that quarterback they got back there. So, don't get me wrong. I'm defensive minded, but if your quarterback is running around every play with his head cut off, there's nothing positive out of taking somebody on defense. And if you feel as though Fields is your future, you need to protect your future, in my opinion. And, I talked to the number 1 Bears fan a few weeks ago, Mr. Corey Wilson, and he gave us all those staggering stats about how Mr. Fields just run. Unfortunately, I think you have to get an offensive lineman. Now, do you take someone like Paris Johnson with the number 1 pick? I don't know if you do that. I don't know if you reach. So I agree with Corey when he says, trade back and get an offensive lineman, because Fields needs protection. And if you can't protect Fields, you're never going to have a winning season, in my opinion.
And this is a good point. Before we come to you, Ryan, and Corey, don't get me wrong. I'm not disrespecting Chicago here. Chicago did everything that they were supposed to do from a general manager. Got rid of some of the excessive age and some of the excessive contracts, put themselves in position with the most free agents, for the most money in free agency, $90 million in available cap space, giving Justin Fields a chance to prove himself on the field, which he did, figuring out now that they don't have a quarterback. But part of this exercise, and I've seen this happen a couple times before, is that you want to be able to get as much as you possibly can for this first pick, right? You want to be able to definitely trade down. And my concern now is that with the quarterbacks that are available, even though I think that 3 of them will get drafted in the top 5, you have Bryce Young and you have CJ Stroud, and then you have the other kid from Kentucky, which I really, really, really like. My concern here is that some of the teams that are trading up, they've seen this before. And that you're going to have to, as Chicago, play a little bit of trickery and make it seem like that there is a potential possibility that not only will you guys draft a quarterback, but also that there is a quarterback on the board here that somebody is going to want to go up and reach and get, right? So if I'm, let's just say, if I'm Indianapolis here and I'm sitting at, 3 or 4 or 4, and I don't believe that if I'm in a situation where I like Young and Stroud, am I tempted to go and draft, give you 3 first rounders for one of them, because I do think that one of them are going to be on the board by the time that I'm up there? Or do Chicago good at creating such a frenzy of somebody's going to come up? And that's what you brought up, a really good point, Corey, where you start looking at the teams lower, the teams like Atlanta, the teams like Carolina, the teams that are, way down in the draft, that may need a Miami, right? That may need to go get a quarterback, and say, Minnesota. So the teams that may need to go get a quarterback and say, oh, we're gonna go and give you three picks to move all the way up to go get Stroud or to go get Young. That's what we're really looking at here. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I've got them trading it, actually. I think they're going to trade the pick, whether it's for, they're going to minimum want, a first for first, and then you're going to have to either give them another first, a second, or a combination of multiple picks. That's what it's going to take to get that number 1 pick. But I think they will. I think Indianapolis is going to be the team. I think they're either going to go C.J. Stroud or Levis out of Kentucky. And I think they're going to want to jump everybody else who's sitting there in line that want these quarterbacks. So I think they'll trade back, which I think is a smart move. But I'm kind of here with Percy. I think you've got needs on defense, but I think if Justin Fields is your guy, which I think everybody on this podcast thinks he is that guy, you got to protect him. And I think the number 1 offensive lineman in the draft is he's probably not going to go top 5. So you could probably trade back and get. I think I've got them taking the tackle Peter Skorinski out of Northwestern, Chicago boy. I think that's who they will take to protect Justin Fields. He's the highest rated lineman coming out of the Division I ranks. So All American. There's I think that's what they do, and I think that's a good thing. I think you got to protect Justin Fields in order to keep him healthy. We've seen so many quarterbacks go down. Just look at the dadgum line of quarterbacks and medical tent over there in San Francisco. It's coming to fruition that you can never have too many quarterbacks, because it's starting to happen more and more and more. Same with Tua. Skylar Thompson started a playoff game. So, I think that's, you got to protect the quarterback. I know they love defense, but I think you can get solid defensive players in the second round, man. I really do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So yeah, we'll get to the quarterback talk when we get to a team that should be drafting them. Understanding that Chicago's trading down, let's move on to number 2. And this is where I'm going to say I think that somebody is going to draft a quarterback. And personally, I think that, so let's just start here by just saying that all 3 of these quarterbacks, Levis, Young, and Stroud, I think are going to get drafted in the top 5. I don't think they're going to be drafted in the top 5 necessarily because of talent. I think they're going to be drafted in the top 5 because of need. And I think the teams are going to come up, and it's going to start a bidding war, and it's going to start a frenzy on these quarterbacks going higher and higher. But personally, if I was looking at the tape and what I have seen just personally, now I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've seen every single snap, but I will tell you that I've probably seen at least 50% of the snaps from all 4 of these quarterbacks. So 3, and then 50% of the snaps from who I think is the most athletic quarterback in the draft, which is the kid from Florida. I forget his name, but the kid from Florida, I think.
Anthony Richardson.
Andy Richardson. Yes, I think Andy Richardson is the most athletic quarterback in the draft. However, when you're a general manager here, and you're taking Houston, so let's just start with Houston picking second. That scares me, because if you're DeMeco Ryans, you want to make sure here that you don't get put into a situation, where you're now stuck with a quarterback now for the next 4 years or 5 years. It's going to make or break whether you're going to get to keep your job or not. So that changes things. You're not in the same position as a San Francisco that can say, okay, well, let's go draft somebody that we think has the highest ceiling. So in this example, what I would do is I would draft the person with the lowest floor. And I'm sorry, not the lowest floor, but the highest floor. Who do I think is going to not necessarily be the best quarterback, but isn't going to be a bust? And in my opinion, it's CJ Stroud. 6'3", 218, big, solid, can make every single throw on the field. People were saying that, and I know he's an Ohio State kid, but people were saying that he can't come outside the pocket. He did a lot of that against Georgia, against some of the best players in the nation, running against the best defense in the nation. Is he as athletic as, can he make these remarkable plays like Bryce Young? No. Does he have the composure in the pocket as Bryce Young? He has very good composure in the pocket, but not as good as Bryce Young. But Bryce Young, for me, is just too small. So we'll talk about it in a little bit. But right now, with the second pick of the draft, I am going with none other than CJ Stroud from Ohio State, being picked by the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans do not draft out of that spot. They pick a quarterback. Percy.
So I like how you went about that. If Chicago keeps that number 1 pick, we got to understand that Houston also has the number 12 pick as well this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I really, really think that Chicago, if they keep that pick, is going to have a lot to do with how Houston goes, because I think with the new coach, I'm sure they're going to have a new staff coming in. Houston should indeed take one of these quarterbacks, and I think they should pick someone to protect the quarterback. And the guy, his name Lucas, that Ryan mentioned, he is a dog.
Yeah.
He is a dog. So if somehow, some way, I don't know what these trades are going to happen, because as you look, guys, the Cardinals do not need a quarterback.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Colts do need a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think Seattle is going to stay with the quarterback they have.
Geno,
yes. And I really think the Bears really get this first 5 to 6 picks going. So I would like to see. I agree with you. I think Bryce is undersized in that pocket. So I just don't see CJ going ahead of Bryce or the young man Will from Kentucky. So I would probably say, this is today. It's going to change, I'm sure. But today, if the draft was today, I would say Houston would go with, I believe they would go with Will Anderson. And I'm going to say that because right now, to not take Will and pick an O lineman, I don't think they would do that right now. That's my decision right now. Because if you got Will Anderson coming off that edge, they got Stingley in the draft last year.
Yeah,
I think that's a nice combination. But I'm sure my choices will change as we get closer.
Not a bad pick, Percy, coming from Alabama. Obviously he's huge, 6'4", 243. On a lot of draft boards, he is ranked number 1, not because obviously quarterbacks will go sooner than rushers. Obviously we know this, but he is ranked number 1. And, he's looking like an animal, and he's looking like the best player in the draft. So there is no doubt that he is dynamic, he is incredible, and he's fantastic. So not a bad pick there, but there is a hole there at quarterback. So Percy, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. You're saying that, depending upon what happens here at number 1, you might just say, forget the quarterback for now and let's draft for talent, which is a great idea for some general managers. And, you look up and you say, okay, let's go get we can draft a Myles Garrett with the first pick instead of having to go get a quarterback. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I've got to believe that these discussions were had when they hired DeMeco Ryans. I think they're gonna go defense. I think they will with the number 2 pick. You can still get somebody at 12. You can get an offensive lineman at 12. That 12 pick, you can do a lot with that pick.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great. People say you want to be first. I don't. I'd want to be sitting at 12. That's where I'd want to be sitting, because I want to see what everybody else is doing.
Now, Ryan and Percy, here's my question. Are you looking to trade down, obviously? No. Okay, all right, you're picking with that second pick.
Yeah,
okay.
So what I would have is I'm kind of torn between two defenders. I think Will Anderson is one of them, is what I had at number 2, but I also have the pass rusher Tyree Wilson as well. Went to my alma mater, but yeah, he's a projected top 5 pick. The only thing with Tyree Wilson is that he's 6'6", 270, and has an 8-foot wingspan. And
He's a monster. He's a monster.
He's a lot bigger.
He's a dog.
He's a big dude, but he's not as fast as Will Anderson to get into the quarterback. But he's a bully on the end. So
yeah, and he can, if you work on him a little bit, he might be able to sink back into coverage there for a couple, maybe 10% of the plays.
He's a lot bigger, but I don't know if they may play him inside a little bit too. So that's been discussed. But I think they go Will Anderson, to be honest with you. I think Tyree falls back a few spaces, but yeah, I've got them taking Will Anderson with the DeMeco Ryans and the Will Anderson Alabama connection. I think that's going to play into this as well, because that's where DeMeco played.
Okay.
So they're all close with Saban. They all love Saban. They all, trust me, they're going to be in contact with him. They all stick together. Trust me.
I hear you. Now I will say this: Percy has said that he recants, and he said that he would be trading down. I agree with that philosophy, Percy, because if you would want to trade down, if there's some team out there like Atlanta or something that wants to give you 3 first-round draft picks to go get CJ Stroud, including their first-round pick this year, like, we'll go down. Like, we have no problem going down.
Let's have it.
Yeah, we'll go build for the future. Now that doesn't mean that you don't want to get a game transformational type of player, such as Will Anderson or the boy from Texas Tech who's 6'6", who's a monster, like animal, pure animal. So yeah, it's DeMeco Ryans, but yeah, Ryan calling out that Alabama connection means a lot. So Corey, we want to make sure that you stay on the rules, because I've got to get Percy and Ryan to stay on the rules. Is you can say that they trade down, but I don't want to hear about what another team will pick. I want to know who would Houston trade. I mean, what is Houston doing here with this second pick? And then we'll get to the players that is going to be picked when we get there.
I believe I know it's going to be tempting for him to take Will Anderson, and I can actually see him doing that. However, I think is
he making the decisions here? Am I reading something that are you guys getting information here that I'm not getting? That is the general manager and the Houston Texans doesn't exist or something? I mean, am I missing something? Like the head coach is making the picks? Because I don't think that that's the case. You guys are saying it's tempting for it's tempting for somebody to make the pick, and usually the coach, this guy Nick Cassero just hired DeMeco Ryans. You think that he's going to let DeMeco Ryans pick his second pick of the draft? Like, no.
I think he's going to be influenced heavily by him, and he's going to take his word, especially with the type of defensive mind that he has and the type of defense that he's put on the field the past few years. Why wouldn't you listen to him? So I think that will play a big factor in it, but I think it's too many holes for the Houston Texans to fill with that team. However, that would be the smart choice, but we also know that the Houston Texans don't always do the most intelligent things. So
I love this.
I can definitely see them taking Will Anderson with that second pick and not trading back, and Will Anderson gets hurt or something and wishing that they would have traded back with just a long lineage of bad decisions from the Houston Texans.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have drafted J.J. Watt. They did make the decision to draft Mario Williams instead of Reggie Bush. So if we go back and we look at revisionist history, they have gone back and selected good picks when they needed to. They decided to take Deshaun Watson. They're not a bad team at drafting. They've drafted good players. The question is when they're on the team, like Hopkins, you don't trade them away for a running back and a receiver. That's the problem. So let's move on to the third pick. I obviously you guys heard from me. I said that they picked CJ Stroud. for this pick because I think that CJ Stroud has the highest floor in this draft from a quarterback perspective. But let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, let's just get off of the idea that they would pick a quarterback because they're not. They have a quarterback that's got 4 years and $200 million left on his contract, and Kyle Murray, who's going to be out until mid-season. However, they got a new coach, they got a new general manager. And I don't even think, have they hired a coach yet? No, I don't think that Arizona has hired a coach yet, but they do have a new general manager. And here with the third pick of the draft, we're going to come to you first, Percy. What do you think Arizona does here?
So Arizona's needs right now, guys, is O-line, an edge rusher, and a DB. So, if in fact Will Anderson is already taken, if he's not taken, he's going to Arizona because they need him bad. Like, that's automatic. If he's available, they make that pick in the first 20 seconds. No need to prolong that one.
Yeah, but you can't. But you already used Will Anderson in the last pick. You can't pick him twice. So who are you picking with the third pick?
So with the third pick, I'm going to say, if it goes the way I say it's going, Mr. Tyree Wilson has to go to Arizona because they need that. They're going to need his presence out there. JJ's leaving, and the next guy that has the most sacks is like 5.5, and he's on a free agency and hasn't been re-signed yet. So they have to pick Tyree Wilson with that third pick. Go over to Arizona where the Eagles play next week for the Super Bowl.
Yes, the Eagles do play in Arizona next week for the Super Bowl, not the Cardinals, but Tyree Wilson, edge, 6'6", edge rusher, 6'6", senior from Ryan's alma mater. Ryan, when's the last time you guys have had a top 5 pick? Do you remember at the top of your head? Mahomes doesn't count, even though he wasn't a top 5 pick.
He's top 10.
He's still.
Yeah,
it's been.
I'll tell you. I think wasn't Michael Crabtree a top 5 pick?
I think he was like 15 or 16, but no, we'll come back to it. But no, congratulations to you guys, Texas Tech. That's a big deal for Texas Tech getting somebody. I agree. Well, no, I'm not going to give mine yet. Let's move on to Ryan. Ryan, who do you think with the third pick of the draft, since you've already taken Will Anderson with number 2?
I think Arizona. I think they'll definitely go with Jalen Carter here. I think they'll actually pass up because I've got. Oh, we can go there next, but I've got Jalen Carter going to Arizona. I think they need somebody to return them to the glory days where they had Darnell Dockett, they had Calais Campbell, they had a mean physical defensive tackle in middle, and they shut the run game down, which gave them the ball back. I think they go Jalen Carter here, who is an absolute monster from Georgia. He is a man amongst boys, and I think he will do the same thing in the NFL. I think he's a can't miss pick, and I think D linemen are pretty solid. Just like O lineman picks, they usually pan out. They tend to not be busts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The defensive line picks, if you go back to PFF, they have a higher take rate in the first round than most other positions. O-line and defensive line have a lot of take rate, and not necessarily tackles at the O-line, but guards and centers and defensive lines, especially defensive tackles, have a high take rate of not being busts. So Corey, if we're remembering you correctly, obviously you said Chicago was going to trade down, but you've already used Will Anderson and you've already used Jalen Carter. So who are you going here for the third pick of the draft at Arizona? Oh, and by the way, Ryan, you are absolutely right. Jalen Carter and Will Anderson are definitely known as the top 2 best players in the draft, right? Mm-hmm. The best players in the draft are them. So go ahead, Corey. Who do you got with the number 3 pick in Arizona?
Hold on. Didn't I put the Bears moving back to 4th to get?
You did, but you still had to pick a number 1 pick. And you said that if the Bears were picking, that they would have picked Will Anderson, right? No. You picked Jalen Carter.
I think that was with the 4th pick. I don't think the Bears will pick Jalen Carter with the first pick.
Okay.
The reason I'm saying that is because I agree with Ryan. I think that they will pick Jalen Carter.
Arizona.
Okay. I think that is exactly who they're going to pick. And that's going to ruin it for Chicago sitting at 4 You know what I mean? Which is good, so they can trade back and get offensive linemen. So I think Jalen Carter is going third with that Arizona pick, and I'd say Will Anderson second with the quarterbacks going first.
Okay, but you didn't pick who. So can you give us who?
The quarterback?
Yeah.
They're going to pick Indianapolis is going to pick CJ Stroud. He's their flavor. That's their flavor. They're not picking Bryce Young. I don't think Indianapolis wants Bryce Young. I think
why are they picking? Do you think that CJ Stroud is the best quarterback in the draft?
No.
Okay.
However, I think Indianapolis is the type of flavor that and the type of composure and the way he stays in the pocket. And I think that is exactly what Indianapolis wants. I think CJ Stroud's the most intelligent quarterback in the draft. Okay. However, I don't think he's the most gifted as far as the guy won't run the ball.
He ran against Georgia.
Thank you. He did it once.
Against the best,
against it all season,
against the team with the best defense in the nation. I mean, you're making it sound like same thing would happen with Justin Fields. Justin Fields had a lot of questions going up, and when he played that way against Clemson, and he showed he can get out and he can scramble a little bit, his draft stock went way up. Now, my question to you is that you're saying he's the most intelligent. So when you're Indianapolis as the general manager, you're basically choosing a quarterback when your job is on the line, right? So you have to pick a quarterback, right? And you're picking a quarterback.
You're going to pick CJ Stroud.
So based upon potential and based upon kind of like what I'm saying with the highest floor, right?
Yes.
You're thinking that he has the limited ability to bust, correct? I mean, not limited ability to bust, but limited ability to bust versus the other quarterbacks.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with you. So let's go. Go ahead.
No, I just think with he has all the tools as far as pocket presence, as far as his ability to go through his progressions, as far as ability just being a total QB brainiac. I think CJ Stroud with the right coaching can blow up in the NFL.
Now, let's also be cognizant, even though I am an Ohio State fan till I die, let's just put and I know that this shouldn't matter in a real general manager's drafting room, but Ohio State's quarterbacks in the past have not panned out well. Besides Justin Fields,
terrible.
I don't want you to, Corey, I don't want you to have a freaking fit here. We're being analysts here, right? Besides Justin Fields, the Ohio State quarterbacks have not panned out well in the NFL at all.
You said besides, including Justin Fields.
Well, Justin Fields has panned out so far. It's only been 2 years. You can't say that Justin Fields is not. If you're up for picking a pick in the draft like Chicago is, and you have somebody on a rookie contract going into their third year, you're not picking a quarterback if you have Justin Fields.
No, you're not.
Because if in an analyst's mind, you're trying to pick up that rookie on that rookie contract that you think can be the quarterback of the future, and you're not going to pick a CJ Stroud or a Young or this isn't like Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, or Trevor Lawrence is coming out. Like, this is like there's not one of these guys coming out. If one of these guys were coming out, like a generational type quarterback that everybody's saying across the board is been 10 years since he's been a sophomore in high school as going to be the number one pick of the draft, like the new Manning kid that's going to Texas. Sorry not to offend you, Ryan, but that kid's nice. You're not drafting him. But if you look at the history of Ohio State's quarterbacks and we just go back in the last 10 and look at the ones that have been drafted, almost every single one of them haven't panned out. Well, name one that's panned out.
Okay, let me say this. I know a lot of if a quarterback pans out or not has to do with the team he goes to and that coaching there, as you know. And you guys been lucky to get Jalen Hurts with some good coaching and someone who can nurture his skill and development. I think Dwayne Haskins was sort of robbed of that when he went straight to Washington.
He was too young.
They threw the kid into. He should have left. He should have stayed another year. But
rest in peace.
Rest in peace. But they threw him in right away. He shouldn't have threw him in. He should have been sitting. He wasn't ready to play. They threw him in with a crap team.
Yeah, but let's not make excuses. Yes, that is the case. But there have been other cases. Like we can't start naming Ohio State quarterbacks that have turned out and done well. I'll give you another team, Alabama, right? Let's start going through their list of quarterbacks that haven't turned out well. Like let's just be honest with each other. And let's just say that these type of teams like Ohio State, their receiver rooms are NFL receiving rooms. They have, it's like, it's okay. I'll be fair. It's exactly what I thought of Joe Burrow coming out. Right. And I'm like, man, he's got Chase. He's got the guy from Minnesota. It's like, there's a lot of talent out here playing receiver. And it's the same thing with Ohio State. So
Joe Burrow's Ohio State.
What'd you say?
Joe Burrow is an Ohio State quarterback.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying to you that we haven't had.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Don't do that. Don't do that. Not do that.
He played 3 years as a backup at Ohio State. Like, come on.
No. Let's stop right now. Listeners, sorry. I am not going to let my co-host get away with saying Joe Burrow is Ohio State.
He played at Ohio State for 3 years.
Louisiana.
He did not step on the field. We're not doing that to him.
He gained valuable experience. He stepped. He got a little bit of time, but
he is LSU. Let's not do that.
Percy, you're right. Percy, you're right. It is blasphemous. It's like the Florida claiming Cam Newton. You're right.
Hey guys, I'm just gonna tell you right now. Living down here, LSU is the last fan base we want to piss off, so we apologize. Don't upset those people. Those people are crazy.
All right. 3 years he was with the Buckeyes. 3 years.
He was.
He didn't sniff the field.
Okay, yeah, because he was playing behind.
I understand.
Field.
I understand.
Okay,
I am not letting y'all. Joe Burrow is phenomenal, and you're not using that Ohio State tag at all. No.
Okay, fair. Let's move on. That's you know what, Percy. Sometimes you got to check us. That is fair. That is a fair statement.
I can name all the quarterbacks for you guys from Ohio State if you want. No, I'm kidding.
He said he's still a Buckeye.
He did say that, but he was drafted by Cincinnati. If he was, he has said that he's still LSU too. But it's okay.
So if he went to the Saints, he would have been like, "Hey man, I'm a."
Let's leave the Burrow. Corey spoke out of turn. Okay, like I want to claim Burrow too, but he's right. Percy, thanks for checking us. He is an LSU guy. Fair. Let's move on. Let's go to pick number 4. Percy, we're coming to you. Pick number 4. Who do you have going with the I apologize, guys. We've been a little discombobulated. Thank you. With Carolina Panther. Oh no, I'm sorry. With the is it Carolina who's picking 4th?
Colts.
No. Colts who's picking 4th. But I understand that we said that we were going to draft. He was going to trade down, but let's just act like that they're not. Obviously, the Colts aren't drafting down. Percy, you have picked somebody for every single time. So who do you think that the Colts are drafting at 4? This is the first time you're picking a quarterback there, buddy.
Yes. I'm going to say the Colts are going to go with C.J. Stroud here. The Colts are going with C.J. Stroud. And I'm going to say they're going to go with Stroud because I think he has more upside than Bryce Young. That young man from Kentucky is no slouch. But I do think they're going to go get CJ at number 4.
Okay. And earlier you said that if Indianapolis trades up to either 1 or either 2 with Houston, you still agree. You still think that when they do trade up, that their pick is CJ Stroud no matter what. Correct?
Yeah. I don't think Bryce is going there. I think it's going to be Stroud.
So the first quarterback off your board, no matter if somebody trades up, is CJ Stroud. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ryan?
Okay, I'm going to take this a little bit differently. I know I've got C.J. Stroud as the top quarterback in this draft.
Fair.
But I think Indianapolis is going to go with the kid from Kentucky. I think they're going to take Levis here. He's – he didn't play – they had a lot of expectations at Kentucky this year that they did not reach their full potential, and they didn't. They were a top 10 team – at one point in the year, and then they lost 4 or 5 games, and he was hurt. He was injured throughout the year. But I think this kid is really good. I don't think he's better than CJ Stroud, but I just knowing what Indianapolis does, I think Indianapolis is going to take Will Levis here at number 4.
You know what, Ryan? You and not McVeigh, not who's the head guy on ESPN that does the NFL draft? Not McShay, but
It's
Kuiper.
Kuiper.
Mel
Yeah, Kuiper thinks that he is the best quarterback in the draft too.
I don't think
Man,
I think he was selected first.
no, you did say that. I'm not hating on you. Some interesting things here about Levis. I want to talk about Levis here for a second. He could have came out last year as a junior, but he decided to stay a year. I think that speaks to obviously his commitment to the team. Kentucky is a different kind of place. They've really kind of molded him into the QB that he is, and he skipped a lot of the pre-draft stuff, and they asked him why did he skip a lot of it, and he said that he just wanted to go to the bowl game with his team. I think that speaks to his heart and his commitment. I've seen him. You know, the SEC is a tough place, especially when you're one of the bottom teams in the SEC for recruiting, and you don't get the kind of offensive line and the kind of weapons that other teams have. And every week you're going against Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, LSU. And they're just rushing you all game. That's a tough situation. In the NFL, you get a better line. The Indianapolis Colts have one of the best lines in the league. If you look at not the game tape, but if you look at the game tape from last year, I mean, he's big, he's accurate, he's on time, he's composed, even though he's getting rushed all game long. Imagine hiking the ball like Corey gives a lot of excuses for Justin Fields, which is accurate, is that as soon as you hike the ball, you know for a fact if you're playing Georgia or Alabama that like your line, you're losing the one-on-one offensive line versus defensive line game. Like, you know, like there's no, like they're not hanging it, like you're going to lose.
Yeah,
so
3-star is not going to hang with Jalen Carter for 4 quarters.
Right, exactly. It's a wrap. So very interesting pick though, Ryan. I do like it. Corey, we'll come to you. Who is the Indiana? Well, no, you said it's going to be the Chicago Bears. Who did the Chicago Bears take at number 4 and why?
The Chicago Bears. Now I know you don't want to say ifs and you want to just go with the teams, but I'm saying if Jalen Carter is off the board from the Arizona Cardinals.
He is, because you can't pick Jalen Carter twice.
I know. So now I'm saying, and Will Anderson's off the board. The Chicago Bears are trading back to get that offensive lineman and to get more picks. But if I have to just say a name, just to say a name, let's say they trade back. Okay, let's say they trade back, and you don't tell me the team that they're trading back for. That's fine. But who is getting picked 4th? Somebody's getting picked 4th, right? Yeah.
So who's getting picked 4th?
I'd say you know what I'd say? I say the Chicago Bears may even, I think they may pick back, but if they're in that, I think they don't want to lose this top offensive lineman prospect. And that's the kid from Northwestern. Mm-hmm. What is his name?
Peter Stokorski.
Yes, that guy. That's who they're going to pick. That's who the Bears are going to pick.
From Illinois. Yep, absolutely.
Yep. They're fawning over this guy. He's already said he would love to be here. They go to all of his games. That's who they're picking.
Okay, and is that because he's from Chicago?
That's who I think they're picking. Yeah,
that's because he's the top offensive tackle in the draft.
Yeah,
being from Chicago as well, but I don't think if he was from Dakota, he's the top guy in the draft, and that's who they have their sets on because they need offensive line help desperately.
Well, there's a lot of people that are, that are saying that he's obviously a very, very good pick, and there's nothing wrong with Chicago going out and getting offensive lines because they need them. However, there are some people out there that saying Broderick Jones from Georgia is a great pick at offensive tackle. Also, Paris Johnson.
Absolutely not.
That's my choice.
Paris Johnson from Ohio State. Absolutely not. I've watched that guy hold and jump off sides all year. Absolutely not. With the 4th pick in the draft, absolutely not. If they did that, I might just burn all of my Chicago Bears stuff. If
Get the burning. Get the burning.
Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so this is great. Okay, so everybody gets excited when draft time comes around. Okay, so 4th pick is the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, I've already said that they were drafting for CJ Stroud, but let's just say here that it was another team. My pick, for reasons that Corey has just highlighted, is obviously Peter Skoronski, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. And you can never just get enough offensive tackles. You got to protect the quarterback, and I believe that somebody will come up and get this offensive tackle, especially if they're trading down, or if Chicago's here. I think that they grab an offensive tackle. So let's move on to pick 5, and this is the most interesting pick here in my estimation at number 5, and then we're going to wrap this up. And this is the Seattle Seahawks drafting at number 5. We're going to come to you, Percy, and we're going to see who the Seattle Seahawks are drafting at number 5, and who do you got?
Well, because they're keeping Geno at quarterback.
Just because they're keeping Geno doesn't mean they can't draft another quarterback.
They're keeping Geno.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that Geno has another 2-3 seasons in the tank, maybe 2.
Okay.
So I'm going to say protect that man. So in protecting that man, I think if Seattle is smart.
He's going to say Paris. Go ahead.
No, I got him going somewhere else.
Oh, okay. I'm
going to say you go get Broderick Jones from University of Georgia. That's what I'm going to say.
6'4", 310 pounds. They're saying that he could. I hear what you're saying, and this is a good pick out of you, Percy, because Seattle does have the ability to go out and try to draft somebody with the highest ceiling, right? And people are saying this kid's ceiling coming out as a sophomore is super, super, super duper high, as in that he could be one of the best picks in the draft. But understand that he does have a very low floor too, as well, saying that he has a lot of potential, but he's only a sophomore and he's a beast. 6'4", 310 offensive tackle, can move really, really well. He's a beast. He's a beast. So no hate there. Ryan?
All right, so Seattle, I think they go defense here, actually, with what Pete Carroll likes to do and what they've done in historically and what's worked for them. What worked for Pete Carroll when he won a Super Bowl? It's called the Legion of Boom. It's called defense. You take that pressure off your offense and you can play a little bit more loose, knowing that you got a good defense behind you. It's a good thing for the entire team, and it's how great teams win. And it's the same thing that Philadelphia is doing right now. So I think they go defense here, and I think this is where Tyree Wilson lands. I think they're going to need a pass rusher. They've got good interior linebackers with another guy from Tech named Jordan Brooks, led the NFL in tackles this year. I think they're going to and I think this is a really nice piece to put on the outside of Tyree Wilson, 6'6", 275. He led the nation in pressures, despite playing in 4 less games than everybody else. So yeah, I really think Tyree Wilson lands in Seattle, and I think that's a piece that Pete Carroll can use. And I think they're gonna, with the way they like to run the ball with Kenneth Walker, I think they're gonna pick up offensive linemen, just not with this pick.
Man, if you're listening out there, Tyree Wilson, you definitely need to give some money when you get drafted back to the podcast, because we're out here going to get you a top 5 pick here. Corey, who do you think and why?
I'm going to go ahead and say this, man, because I don't think you guys are really thinking about this. Isn't Pete Carroll the oldest coach in the NFL?
Him or Bill Belichick?
Either one of those guys, yeah.
I think it's the beginning of the end for Pete Carroll, man. And not to say that they were 3-14 or anything, but I think the Seattle Seahawks may want to hear a new voice in that locker room. And
so wait, let me ask you a question, because you're going to get called out. This is the Beyond Elevated show. Our people will get called out here. So They get rid of the best quarterback in franchise history, saying that he was the only reason that they were winning games. When he left, they won like 6 or 7 games the previous season, and he was acting like a diva. Russell Wilson was acting like a diva. They trade him away. They get a haul back from the Denver Broncos, including 2 first-round draft picks and like a second-round draft pick. They're picked to only win 5 games in the NFL this year with one of the worst records in the NFL. However, besides that, they take Geno Smith, start him at quarterback, and take this team to the playoffs. Yes, they lost in the first round, but they shocked everybody. They were not supposed to be a playoff team. They weren't even supposed to contend for a playoff spot. And you're telling me that it's the beginning of the end for Pete Carroll?
Here's why I'm saying that. Because if he picks a defensive player, you know as well as I do, just like Kirk Cousins and all the rest of them in the NFL, Geno Smith is going to do what Geno Smith does, and he ain't going no damn where. So if he don't pick Bryce Young with that pick, they're going to put his ass out of town so fast. And if Bryce Young goes somewhere else and as dynamic as he can be, and as we've seen, and if he does that for another team and he picks one of these defensive guys, they're just defensive guys compared to Bryce Young.
Let's talk about Bryce Young, though.
He better pick. That's where Bryce Young's going there.
Okay, and we haven't spent enough time, Corey, so I'm going to give you the floor to talk about Bryce Young a little bit. Why Seattle? Is he the starter next year, or does he sit behind Geno?
He sits behind Geno. I think Pete Carroll is smart enough not to throw him into the fire.
He threw Russell Wilson out there in the fire as starting.
That's because Russell Wilson outplayed
Matt Flynn.
Because they gave him the big contract. They just didn't know he was going to be stir-fried crap. And Russell Wilson just outplayed him. So they're going to bring Bryce Young in, sitting behind another African-American quarterback, teach him about the NFL, let him see the schedule, the system, and learn how to be a professional. Then you can either transform Geno into the backup quarterback role. He seems like the type of guy who will still be rah-rah and a backup quarterback.
Geno.
Not this year.
No, not this year, but Geno would love to mentor a quarterback because remember, he was thrown into that Jet situation and it really messed him up. It really messed him up. So him sitting there and getting somebody like Bryce Young might be a good place to mentor, but keep going.
I think he loves Seattle, and I think he's the type of guy who will mentor him and maybe even when he's done playing, become part of the coaching staff. If Pete Carroll still stays there, I think he's that type of player that is a team rah-rah guy like that who you love to have around your young quarterback. So Bryce Young is definitely going to Seattle. I think that is a place that he can thrive with the type of coaching that he can thrive from. So if Pete Carroll picks someone else, that's why I'm saying it could be the beginning of the end for him, because they're not going to – I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs next year if they go with Geno Smith and pick a defensive guy. They got lucky this year. It won't be like that next year.
For one of the first times.
You said lucky?
Yeah.
One of the first times
they got lucky. I don't think the AFC is going to be as some of the bottom teams like the Raiders and the Denver Broncos when Sean Payton goes there. I think some of these teams are going to step up and do what we thought they originally were going to do. What if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Las Vegas Raiders?
It wouldn't really matter because Seattle's
They're
in the
NFC.
And they play in the NFC. Go ahead.
Well,
Seattle's in the NFC. Corey's thinking about 20 years ago. Seattle's in the NFC. They play in the NFC West.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
They're fine with San Francisco. But to Corey's point,
Arizona, that's what I meant. I meant Arizona.
Arizona, the LA Rams, and I think the LA Rams will be better next year. I think that they came off of drinking too much champagne from the Super Bowl. But Percy, to Corey's point, this is one of the rare times where you'll ever hear me say this is I actually agree with Corey 100%. I think that Geno Smith will come back down to life a little bit next year, right? I think he had a really good year. Listen, I love the quarterback that is in his 7th or 8th year that who was getting shipped around everywhere, playing backup, finally got a chance after he got a little bit older, got to play backup for a little bit, had a great year, led the league in completion percentage, played great, took a team to the playoffs that shouldn't have gone. People are forgetting, though. I mean, he does have 2 amazing receivers. Okay, like 2 amazing receivers, right?
One never drops the ball ever.
Right. And also on top of that, before Penny, I think it was Penny, got hurt, the run game was unbelievable out in Seattle. And we just know playing in Seattle with the 12th man, that defense is going to be mid defense no matter what. Now, remember, he drafted Russell Wilson, right? When he came in from USC with his first pick, when he in the 3rd round, he drafted Russell Wilson. Everybody that I've talked to and all the scouts all the scouting messages that I've read, that Bryce Young is 5'10". He's not 6 foot. There's also a lot of people that are saying he's like 165, 170 pounds and not 190.
He's way smaller than Drew Brees.
Right. So I am thinking he is a project. I think he's bigger than Kyle. I think he's bigger than Kyle Murray. He's definitely bigger than Kyle Murray. But I'll tell you what, though. I think Bryce Young has the highest ceiling in this as a quarterback. I'm saying that Stroud has the highest floor. If I was a GM and I wanted to go with the safe pick and not get fired, and I think he's, like Corey said, the most intelligent and the one that can, be an average quarterback in the league. Yes. However, I have watched at least 80% of Bryce Young's snaps. I'm even online looking at him now. He takes a beating.
Yeah.
He takes a beating and he keeps getting up the composure. If you want to watch a quarterback play quarterback, a college quarterback who looks like an NFL quarterback, watch him in the Texas game and watch his snaps and watch how composed he is in the pocket and how he steps up into the pocket almost every single time, doesn't abandon the plan. He's good. Nick Saban says he's the best coach. He's the best player that he's ever coached. The kid is smart. The kid is good. Now, if I'm picking Bryce Young here because I think that if he is 6'2", 220, he's the first pick in the draft no matter what. And I think that with the right kind of coach like Pete Carroll, to be older, to be more mature, to him to say to Bryce Young, you saw what I did with Russell Wilson. I went through the battles with USC and Alabama with your coach. I know Nick Saban well. You need to sit down for 2 years. You need to learn like Aaron Rodgers did. You're smaller. We're going to teach you some more things. We're going to groom you to be the quarterback of the future. He's in a game. They've already seen him doing the interviews of him talking about how he got a nutritionist and he's trying to gain 20 pounds before the draft. He's got the work ethic to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he needs to go somewhere that has a quarterback now that can be patient. He can't go to the Colts and they can't throw him in to be the quarterback to go play right now. Be patient. And I think that he has the highest ceiling. I really do. So I think with the 5th pick, I begrudgingly agree with Corey, but I think that they're going to take Bryce Young. And I think if they don't, I think that, like Percy said, that next team, which we're going to get into our next podcast and talk about draft pick 6 to 10, would be fools in the Detroit Lions not to go Bryce Young. But anyway, that's all the time that we have in the Beyond Elevated show this episode. I'm glad that we got to spend the time together. Percy, I hope you feel better. Ryan, I see you out there killing it in Dallas. Hope everything is defrosting in Dallas, and obviously you and I can get out of here. And Corey Wilson, really good job on this episode. Do you have any closing words for us, Corey?
Go Bears. Go Buckeyes.
Holy moly.
Oh, well, I will say this. I am excited. Here's what I didn't get a chance to say. I'm excited to see what some of these guys do coming up in the combines, because that can really change things as far as the quarterbacks go as well. And their measurables, like you say, you say he's 5'10". Who knows? He can stand on his tippy toes and they can say he's 6'1", 100. You know how I don't know.
Not at the combine. He can't.
So we're going to see the measurables. We're going to see a lot of different things as far as speed and skill set from a lot of these receivers and running backs, and see who's running 4.3s and 4.4s. So I really look forward to the combine coming up here, and that could change some things as far as draft goes.
Okay, well, you guys heard it here first. Thank you so much for joining the Beyond Elevated team today. Please log on to our website at www.beyondelevated.net or beyondelevatedshow.com, or you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of our handles. We would love to get as much support as we can. Thank you very much, and hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you.